Welcome to Top 5, a show where we count things down from number 5 to number 1. Sometimes you'll give them a cookie. Sometimes you'll give them a piece of candy or a pat on the head or a hug. This week, we're talking about the top 5 positive parent-child relationships in media. This is, of course, they're all, I always say this, comes from one of our fantastic listeners.
Yay!
Top 5 positive parent-child relationships in media. Dear Top 5, comics are second only to young adult novels in depicting parents that are either A, horrible, or B, absent/dead.
Mm-hmm.
But there must be some counterexamples. What are your 5 best examples of positive parent-child relationships in media? And my number 5, I'm going to go out a little bit on a stretch on. Because when we say media, we're talking about, radio, television, film, comic books, newspapers, podcasts. Mm-hmm. And probably the best example of positive parent-child relationships in podcasts are the Johnsons over at the Frog Pants Network. Scott and his wife have raised kids from very young little childrens to some very grown-up adults. And they are wonderful children. And Scott shares stories on his parenting examples and things that he and his wife have done. And it's just super positive. Everything that they do is nothing but positivity around their children. And if you listen to any of the shows that Scott is on, when he starts talking about the relationship that he has with his kids, and when you see them interacting on Carter, his daughter, who's a fantastic artist. If you see them doing a podcast together or a live stream where they're doing art together, you can tell that there's a super positive bond going on with that Johnson family. So I'm putting the Johnsons down as my number 5 best example of positive parent-child relationships in media, because they're all over the place. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Scott said that they were writing a parenting book, he and his wife together. Kim is her name. So that is my number 5. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 5?
My number 5 is a person from a video game who always tries to do the right thing and is always very positive to his wife and adopted children. I am, of course, talking about Octodad. Now, as a video game character, you'd think he'd be going on crazy adventures and saving the world, but no. Octodad, all he wants to do is make a sandwich or get a reception hall ready for a wedding, and it's very difficult because he's an octopus pretending to be a person. In fact, that's the only reason why he's at my number 5 is because technically he is lying to his family because they think that he's not an octopus. Right. But I believe the tagline for the Octodad game is a loving husband, devoted father, secret octopus. So, and it is in that order. So my number 5 is Octodad and his family.
Nice.
Matthew, what do you have for number 5?
My number 5 actually is one that I considered not putting on here because here's the deal. This is an interaction that has been around literally for decades. But for about the first 50 years, these parents were dead. Now, all that changed in 1986 with the revamp of Superman, a new Superman #1, during which it was discovered that Superman rocketed to Earth. He was adopted by Jonathan and Martha Kent, and they did not die. So after 50 years of being dead parents, all of a sudden, the parents are back in the life. And in 1993, live-action Superman came to TV, The Adventures of Lois and Clark. Now, if you've ever seen this show, it's a really wonderful Superman take because it says that Clark Kent is the real identity. Superman is a thing that he puts on to go and save people and keep them off his trail. Ma Kent made his costume, jokes about how tight his costume is. During the series, he calls home to Smallville to talk to Ma and Pa. Yeah. And, they help him figure out Superman concerns. They actively help him be a better hero. And he will call them up and go, Ma, Lois is mad at me. And they'll have this interaction where Ma and Pa Kent give him folksy wisdom from Kansas, and then he has to go back and deal with it in Metropolis. And you're dealing with a Superman who's all at 26, 27 years old. So he's an adult. He's a grown man, but he has such a close relationship with his parents that he can still call them when he has a problem and say, Ma, Pa, what should I do? What can I do here? I need some guidance. And I think that it's really great to see a hero, first of all, whose parents are not dead.
Well,
and I'm not throwing shade at anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing shade at any bats here. I'm saying that dead parents, as the original poster said, dead parents are a thing that is incredibly common. And even characters who haven't had dead parents. Yeah. That's the thing.
I mean, that's the thing is like, it really gives you that character who does good things with the powers that he has because he was raised right.
Right.
It's like nothing compels him. No like sickening obsession
Terror.
drives him. It's just like, this is someone who says, I have the ability to do something good, and I've always been taught that you should. So he does.
Yep.
And all those reasons.
Mom and dad help him.
All those reasons are why the Kints are my number 3 on my positive parent-child relationship. It's. I mean, it's just the whole thing where, and I think it's probably partially due in part to the book that I just finally finished. It's Superman, which came out years and years ago.
Like 1978. I think.
No. It came out in like 2010 or 11 or something like that. But Clark is troubled about, what is he supposed to do in the world? What is he supposed to do with his powers? Now, his mom has died, but his father is still around. But even growing up, before she passes, you can tell there's interactions with the mother in the book about, what do you do when you're scared? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? And so it's very positive in that. And then, of course, once the Kints are brought back to life in the comic books or even in Superboy, with the Kints running around doing their things, it's just really smart. And when you get the Dukes of Hazzard telling Superman how to run his life, then you got something special. So the Kints are my number 3 on that list.
It's only half a Dukes of Hazzard.
Right. Well, both of them showed up in the show. So, were they related in the show?
They were cousins in the show.
No, not in Dukes of Hazzard, but in Smallville. When Tom
I never
Wopat
watched Smallville, but that's the one that I watched.
Oh, okay.
They were actually old friends and associates.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. I barely remember that episode. That's probably the one that I kind of
from when they used to run moonshine through Boss Hogg's territory.
My number 4, regardless of what you hear about what happened offset or what's going on with the actors today, when you go back and look at Full House and you look at the Tanners, that is my number 4 example of positive parent-child relationships. Now, granted, everyone has to have an antic that happens. In fact, all of these examples, if you're looking on television, in the sitcom category, you run into this, here's an antic, now here's the result, and here are the parents not hitting their kid, not yelling at their kid, but, hey, we're a family, we're going to stick together. And when you have your wife die, and you've got an uncle and a best friend who are coming in, and you're raising 3 kids together, then that's super positive. And regardless of what you thought of the show or the new show that's out there or, lives of these actors and actresses, I think the Tanners, the Tanner family is a great example of a positive child relationship with parents in television. So that's my number 4.
Rodrigo, very disappointed in you, Michelle.
What do you have for number 4? Yeah, does he ever say, you little S, what'd you do that for? He's like, I'm just
he doesn't get mad. He's just like, I'm very disappointed in you, Michelle.
If that is the worst that happens, if you're a kid and that's how your parents treat you, if that's the worst thing that happens in your life, man, I envy you. Rodrigo, what do you have for number 4?
My number 4 is the Jetsons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I thought a lot about this, and I was like, oh, what are some like popular cartoon dads? And I thought about Fred Flintstone with Pebbles, but Fred always has this kind of edge to him. He's always kind of trying to get rich quick. He's doing these things, and he kind of is kind of like that prototypical bumbling dad that would eventually lead us to Homer Simpson and Peter Griffin, right?
Mm-hmm.
George really seems like a guy who wants to do the right thing, and he just always makes dumb decisions, but that's not really his fault. Like, a lot of the problems that he gets himself into don't come from like, I'm going to get one over on people. He's just kind of trying to do something correct, something nice, something good, and it kind of goes wrong for him. But he's always good to his kids. I think he's interestingly, despite the fact that he lives in like the 30th century or something, he's kind of a man from a previous generation to this 30th century. And he's like constantly surprised by kids today, but he's never like really very negative to his children, even though like his like, especially I think in some episodes, Judy is just written as such a snot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Well, Judy is like the typical teen
teenager,
circa 1965.
Right.
Yeah. Which is weird because it's the year 2350.
Exactly. So I kind of feel that the show kind of sometimes some of the antagonistic sources are both Jane and Judy, and that's played for laughs, not necessarily a great thing. But George is generally speaking like a good husband and a good father, and pet owner and robot owner. So. Yeah, so George Jetson to me is and his family is a good example of a good family dynamic.
Yeah, Matthew, you're number 4.
My number 4, strangely, is something that seems like it's probably way out of my normal wheelhouse, and that, my friend, is just proof that everybody has secret hidden worlds. But when you talk about romantic comedies, a lot of times in a romantic comedy setting, especially when you're dealing with teenagers and young adults, the parents are very poorly written. They're like the nudgy parents or the angry parents, or God help us, the absent parents. But a few years ago, Emma Stone, who is an actress that I really, really, really love, was in a movie called Easy A. And the story of Easy A is that she is a nice girl who gets a bad reputation, turns that bad reputation around, turns it into pure profit, and then somehow it all comes crashing down on her, but she ends up coming out of it relatively unscathed, partly because of the support of her weird hippie parents, the Pendergasts. Throughout this movie, no matter what weird, crazy stuff is going on, where she's pretending to be the school bicycle so that the boys in the school can get big reputations with the other guys, and in return they're giving her like gift cards to the Home Depot so she can redecorate the whole house and do all the things that she wants to do in her weird way. And throughout the movie, her parents are just like, this is going to come back and bite you. And they're really supportive and they're really funny. The interactions between Olive and her parents are just hysterical to watch. It's the kind of parent that I hope to be once I get a full-fledged teenager floating around my house, and hopefully I won't have to drink a whole lot to get to that level. But what it really comes down to is they know their daughter is doing stuff that's probably not smart, but they're going to let her make her mistakes. They'll support her. They'll tell her this is probably not smart, but they let her go out, and then they don't leave her to hang. They don't leave her to deal with it. They come in and they support her as best they can, and they tell her, look, you have to deal with this. You have to fix this. How are you going to fix this? And then when she says she doesn't know, they might nudge her a little bit. And I think that that's really wonderful and really rare in teen movies because, again, usually parents are afterthoughts at best in these kind of movies. So my number 4, The Pendergasts from Easy A. Check that movie out, by the way. It's really funny.
Cool. I already did my number 3. Rodrigo, who do you have for your number 3?
My number 3 are 2 characters that aren't or really 3 characters are not parent and child. They're actually godparents and child, and that's Wanda and Cosmo and Timmy from The Fairly Odd Parents. And you might think, wait a minute, Wanda and Cosmo basically give Timmy whatever he wants, and really that's where the hijinks of any given episode come from, is that Timmy wishes for something and his wish goes wrong. Right. But really, usually you have to, if you look at every episode, it usually goes like this. Timmy sees something he wants. He wishes for it. Wanda warns him. She says, you know what? This might not go the way you think. And then Timmy's like, yeah, I want it anyway. And then they're like, okay, if that's what you want. Right. So The Fairly Odd Parents weirdly is a show about parents letting their kids make mistakes within a controlled environment because they're magic and they're bound to grant his wishes or whatever, but they're always like, okay, do you want to stop now? Do you want to stop now? and then finally gets to the moment where he kind of has to like undo his wish, right, in some way, because it's all gone crazy. So it's an interesting take on parenting. It's this idea that parents can be hands off and still involved, or even facilitators, without spoiling a child, right? That you can say, okay, well, you want to take dancing classes, let's go. And then it's like, well, I don't want to take dancing classes anymore. It's like, well, this is what you wished for, so you're finishing out the year, kind of stuff, I mean, that's the sort of thing that the show hints at. And they're always very supportive. They're always very nice. Cosmo is not intelligent at all. But he's still like a very nice, supportive person. Wanda is way smarter than everybody else on the show, but still, she doesn't let that get ahead of herself. And yeah, they're just kind of like helping Timmy get through his childhood. A childhood which, by the way, is with parents that are kind of very neglectful. Like, haha, funny. But if you look at Timmy's actual parents, they're terrible.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this situation where he needs that support from his magical floating godparents who turn into goldfish, mailboxes, anything else to kind of keep incognito.
Magic.
Yep.
Matthew, who do you have for your number 3?
There's actually some magic in my number 3, but it's a different kind of magic.
Was it the one you find in the old silk hat?
No, it's a much darker magic. And by dark, I mean really weird.
Be named. He really is the best parent.
It's clearly Voldemort.
No, don't say his name.
I can say his name. I'm a muggle. But here's the thing.
What about Beetlejuice?
There is something really, really, just don't say the C word. There's something really, really compelling about that weird, dark aesthetic. And that weird, dark aesthetic, he said, talking over Stephen. Rodrigo talked a little bit about those 60s archetypes as they show up in the Jetsons in the future. The same thing is seen, but in an inverted way, in the Addams Family. And if you look at the 1960s Addams Family, Tish and Gomez are madly in love, and they are so weird. They are freaky people. He crashes his toy trains, and she cuts the roses off and arranges the thorns. And their children are equally strange. Wednesday is this weird, dark kind of, I don't know what you'd even call it, an arcane sort of child. And Pugsley is a weird, freaky little kid. But they're incredibly supportive of anything they feel like they're into. Their kids are weird, and they're okay with that. And they're going to support their children and tell them, be weird. Do not conform to anybody else's thoughts or standards, but do what makes you happy. Do what it is that's in your heart. And if that means that you go out and you do incredibly creepy things, then do incredibly creepy things. Live it, love it, own it. And I think that, the fact that Pugsley can go and hang from a branch by his teeth, or Wednesday can go out with her pet Black Widow spider, is really a testament to the kind of strength of character that these parents have invested in their children, and the fact that there's so much love in that family. They clearly love each other. They clearly love their children. They even love creepy grandmama and Thing and cousin It. It's a close-knit family. It's a really, really nice aesthetic. And even though they're creepy and they're kooky and also some kind of ooky, they're really good parenting kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Examples?
Yeah.
I feel like if I were to be as good a father as Gomez Addams is, I'd be doing okay. I don't know if I can pull off pinstripes.
No.
But I'd be doing okay.
All right, cool. We are up to our number 2s. And, when you're a young kid, probably somewhere in between the ages of 8 and 15, you do a lot of really stupid things. But instead of getting yelled at or getting smacked upside the head or the belt or the paddle or whatever that comes out, you need a father or a mother that are super understanding and just explain, hey, we know you're a stupid kid. It's not your fault that you do these dumb things and are constantly getting into trouble. You're naive. Someday, hopefully, you will grow up out of this. But until then, Beaver Cleaver, your parents will understand and explain things to you in a very nice 1950s, 1960s way.
And if you think about
no, if you're talking about Ward Cleaver, and June, a couple of great parents, right? I mean, go do what you need to do, have fun, stay out of trouble. But if you do get into trouble, we'll be there and help explain to you why this wasn't the right thing to do. But we're not going to smack you upside the head. We're not going to take away your Nintendo. We're not going to, make you go without TV for a week. We'll just say, oh, beaver. And then next week, we'll hope your antics are a little bit more in line. So my number 2, The Cleavers, Ward and June, from the TV show The Cleavers.
Leave it to Beaver.
Leave it to Beaver. Leave it to The Cleavers.
That's the name of the show.
Yes, leave it to Cleavers. Rodrigo, what do you have for number 2?
My number 2 is an adoptive family, all of who are very supportive to each other. Because basically the show centers around a kind of an already extant group of 4 people, and then an adoptive son comes into the mix, and it's kind of partially about them dealing with that and the fact that he doesn't look like them and he's not like them. I'm talking about the family from Dinosaur Train, if you're familiar.
Yeah, Dinosaur Train.
That's right.
Dinosaur Train never going back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Soul Asylum, it's a great album.
Yep. So the family of Dinosaur Train is Mr. and Mrs. Pteranodon, who have 3 kids.
Children,
yeah, 3 children. And then to this family comes another egg that ended up in their nest, and it's a little Tyrannosaurus named Buddy. And they're like, well, I guess you're our son now. And so they kind of embark on this ongoing adventure to learn all about dinosaurs and stuff. I think to explain to Buddy that it's okay to be different. In the actual show, they don't just gloss over this. They talk about kind of a little bit of Buddy's apprehension about the fact that he doesn't look like the rest of his family. And eventually he starts kind of voicing a...
Rawr, I'm going to eat you because I'm a carnivore. Ah.
Yeah. He starts voicing a positivity about it. He's like, yeah, it's okay if your family doesn't look exactly like you do and everything else. He meets other T-Rexes. They allow him to connect to his T-Rex-ness, but he's never like, oh, well, I'm going to go be with the other T-Rexes. He always goes back to his family.
Yep.
Like that's who he is. He's one of the Pteranodon family, even though he himself is not a Pteranodon. This is part of PBS's secret agenda to create well-adjusted people. All of their shows have all of these like undercurrents of like, hey, adopted kids, it's okay to be adopted, and like, hey, urban kids, here's all this stuff that's going on in cities, and it's like, hey, country kids, here's all this stuff that's going on in the country, like, be nice. Basically, PBS, all their undercurrent is like, be nice, you guys. Everybody else is sad too. So yeah, my number 2, the family from Dinosaur Train.
Very cool. Matthew, what do you have for your number 2?
My number 2 takes me back to the 1990s, to Rodrigo's youth.
Yes.
A time when Friday nights were time for ABC. And you sit and you would watch your ABC. What do they call that?
Must-see TV?
TGIF.
TGIF.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah, because I didn't watch all of it. I only watched one show. And that show, Boy Meets World, featured a young boy named Corey who was kind of a fatuous little jerkwad most of the time. But it's okay because he's the protagonist. The protagonist can be a fatuous little jerkwad. I mean, it worked for Ted Mosby. It worked for those people from Friends. And it worked for Corey because Corey had friends and he had school and he had a big brother with whom he had this contentious relationship. And he had a girlfriend who wasn't actually his girlfriend, whose backstory got retconned like 5 times, but that's okay. Oh, yeah.
Brutally. All of their backstories actually got retconned like crazy.
Yeah. But the one thing that maintained throughout that show, even with long absences, was his parents, Alan and Amy, the Matthews, because they were kind of modern smart aleck parents. They were in that same vein as the Tanners from Full House. And they would actually, they would tease their son, and they would occasionally go, "Oh, you're being an idiot, kid." But they would always be there and they would support him. And there's an episode very late in the run where he is married to Pengut and moved out, and he's having trouble trying to figure it out. And he goes to his dad and he's like, Dad, I need your help. And he's like, son, you're a man now. I can't help you anymore. I've given you everything that I can, and now you get to go figure it out. And it's a moment where when I first saw it, it felt really cruel. And then I saw it again, and I saw the regret that Alan felt in having to tell his son this because he wanted to help. But it's at a point where now Corey has to figure it out for himself. And the episode that really cements it is an episode where Eric, the big brother, and Corey are vying for Alan's attention. And Eric, who at this point is just a flat-out lunatic, tells a story at the art gallery of how this particular sculpture, which doesn't look anything like what he's describing, is actually about a monkey who had 2 monkey babies but only 1 coconut, and how the monkey was struggling, was trying to make that 1 coconut be enough for both of the monkey babies. And Alan realizes what his kid is telling him, and it's this moment where you're not sure whether Eric is really telling his dad, Dad, I know you're doing the best you can to split the coconut between 2 monkeys. But of course, he's got one son who's this fatuous little jerkwad, another son who's literally insane. But at the end of the episode, there's this beautiful moment where they walk out and they have an understanding and they pat each other on the back. And as they walk away, you see the name of the sculpture is Monkey with Coconut.
Nice.
That doesn't have anything to do with being a good parent. I just think it's a great little fill-up at the end. But Alan and Amy try really hard to not let their sons and their daughter, who disappears for a season and a half, be terrible people.
They lampshade that.
Yeah. She comes downstairs in season 5 after not appearing since season 2, and she's like, that's the longest timeout I've ever had.
Yeah.
All right,
but
everyone.
It's really, really tough.
All right, we are to our number ones. And if you are a wife who has lost her husband, and you've got girls to raise, or if you're a husband who has lost a wife and you have boys to raise, you better do it the best you can. But if one day that man and that woman meet and they decide that they must form a family,
is it more than a hunch?
Then, yeah, I think that the hunch is that if you're going to form a bunch of people in your family, then you got to be some really, really understanding parents, because by the time those kids hit puberty, hey, I'm not related to you, and I've got the whole attic to myself.
Oh, God.
Or if you play basketball in the house and you break your mom's favorite vase, you got to be understanding. In fact, you're such great parents. You are such great loving parents that you will take in your brother and or sister's child to come live with your family. I'm, of course, talking about the Brady Bunch. I think the Bradys are pretty cool parents. I mean, Mike does get angry maybe occasionally, but he's not like, you're grounded. That singer of the Monkees will never visit our house now. He's never like that. And, of course, what's her face? Mrs. Brady, because you never call her by any other name but Mrs. Brady. You're just totally understanding mom. Totally wants to be there for her kids. I don't think she works, so she goes, I don't know, maybe she does work, but, she goes to all the functions for her kids, make sure they have everything together. She's got to keep a house running with, 6 kids running around. Brady Bunch. I'm talking about Mike and Carol Brady. They're probably the best example of positive parent-child relationships in media.
Mrs. Brady, if you're nasty.
Mrs. Brady, if you're nasty. That is right. Rodrigo, what do you have for number 1?
You have to give Mike credit. He broke the laws of physics with that house because it's bigger on the inside.
I know, right? Well, he is an architect, so there you go.
Yes.
Yep.
Rodrigo, what do you have for number 1?
Sure.
My number 1 is interesting to me because it's another video game, and it kind of built into the game the importance of parents. There's a game that's very important to me. It's called Earthbound. It was on the Super NES, and it's the first role-playing game on video game that I ever really played. And it just kind of changed my outlook on a lot of things. But one of the things that it does really well is relationships, which a lot of RPGs do not do all that well. And the protagonist lives with his mom and maybe his dad. It's kind of like you only communicate with your dad on the phone, and they say he's working. But I wonder if it also implies kind of that the parents are estranged, but individually, the parents are always very supportive to the main character. In fact, if you go too long without calling your mom, you pick up like the same way that you can be poisoned or petrified or whatever, you become homesick and your stats drop. So you have to like call your mom every once in a while, or better yet, go back and visit her. And she'll make you your favorite meal, and you can hang out with her, and then your homesickness will go away. Your dad is also very supportive. He's always working, so he's where your money to fund your galactic adventure comes from. And he always you call him to save the game, so you call dad to have a chat about what adventures you've been having. The game saves, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, I put a little money in your account." It's the parents from Earthbound are this like ingrained part of the system in a way that like, a lot of like your orphan, like magical orphan type characters are not. You go back at the end and you can go back to your family. It's something that is almost rare to see in games that are almost always kickstarted by parents dying or some major cataclysm, or just have these characters that pop out of nowhere, like completely made, and you're like, well, where does this person come from? It's like, well, in Earthbound, you start out in your bed, in your room, and then you go from there, and you meet a lot of weird critters, but your parents are always there when you need them. So my number one, the parents from Earthbound.
There you go. Matthew, you wrap it up with your number one.
Did somebody say Magical Orphan?
No.
I did.
You did. Hooray. Because that leads right into my number one. Here's the thing about my number one. It is very, very difficult to perceive at the beginning of the interaction exactly what is going on between this character and his father. But once it becomes clear, it is 100% clear that Greg Universe may be the most devoted dad in the history of the world. And here's why. Greg Universe fell in love with a woman who actually turned out to be an alien rock person from another planet. Mm-hmm. They had a child together, but in so doing, she had to give up her physical form, in essence dying in childbirth, to give him a son. And as the series Steven Universe begins, we see that Steven is growing up with the Crystal Gems, 3 more alien shapeshifters, who are teaching him how to use his alien nature and powers. But his father is still a part of his life. His father lives in a van, and I'm not going to say down by the river because it's actually oceanfront. His father works at a terrible job in a car wash, presumably because it's the job you can get in Beach City to stay near his son. And as his son becomes more and more active in this wild universe-spanning superhero crap, he's clearly less and less comfortable with it. His frame of reference is gone, but he's still trying to be as supportive as he can. He's trying to be the best dad that he can to a kid that he literally cannot understand what's happening. The stuff that Steven goes through, especially at the end of season 1, where the Crystal Gems, Homeworld Gems, come and attack, and they drag Steven away into space, and he's explaining to his dad what happened, and all this stuff happened, and, oh, but you got away. No, they took me into space, and they were going to drag me away forever. And you see this dawning panic. He cannot understand. He really can't entirely wrap his mind around what's going on. And as the series progresses, we see that he's incredibly uncomfortable around at least one of the Crystal Gems because of some leftover resentment with her relationship with his dead wife. But he stays around this person who creeps him out because he loves his son, she loves his son, and he's willing to accept her so long as he has the chance to go hide in his van. And throughout the series, you see that Greg is the in many ways, the dullest person in the universe. He loves his music. He loves Rose. And that's pretty much all he's got going for him. But he's a really great dad. He's an interactive dad. He's a dad who tries to talk to his son, who tries to teach him, tries to understand him. And at the very worst, hangs out and plays music with him and just kind of pals around with him. And I think that you can't do worse than just the amount of effort he has to put into trying to connect to his son, who is also half alien shape-shifting rock. So my number one, obviously, Greg Universe. Also, I want that hair. Well, I want his hair when he was 22.
Yeah.
But, what are you going to do?
All right, everybody, that wraps it up for this installment of Top 5. We've shared our Top 5 positive parent-child relationships in media, and now it's your turn. Head over to Majorspoilers.com. Use the comments section. Fill it out with your Top 5. We'll read it. Other people will read it. And if you found some enjoyment in this episode, maybe you want to see the show continue. Maybe you want to see it happen more than twice a month or once a month if Steven's not paying attention to the calendar. If you do, head over to patreon.com/majorspoilers. Throw a few bucks our way and allow this show to continue week after week. And we can't wait to see what you put in your list. Why? Because everyone loves a list, and we will see you soon.
This podcast is copyright 2016 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.